before I actually found one that met all my needs. So the first thing is, um, don't worry if you have an anatomy book and you tried it and it didn't meet your needs. It would be good if for some way you were able to find one that met your needs right off the bat, but it doesn't always happen. It didn't happen for me, um, and it may not happen for you, but don't give up. Keep on working through it to find one that works best for you. I found that this one works best for me, and I am just enjoying my process through here. Now, how am I using this to learn? What is the best way to use this book specifically? And how am I doing it? How am I approaching this? So, here is how I'm approaching it. First of all, I'm just going to run through and then I'm going to jump into my sketchbook here to kind of show some of the things that I've been doing. So, first of all, in going through the books, I want to learn and understand the basic shapes. I want to be able to turn them. I want to be able to use them for construction. Um, and for this, I need lots of examples, which again, as you can even see from this page here, tons of examples. I'm not drawing everything, I'm going for understanding. Um, and I need to enjoy it, as I said, and then I try to implement in some drawings of my own, which is where things normally start falling apart. But I have a fun time doing it, and of course, most importantly, I draw whatever I want. So, because again, fun is at is at the top of my priority list. So I get to draw whatever I want. So if I need to take a break and just do reference and see if I can draw references in a similar style and simplified manner and incorporate the things that I have been learning, I do that. And then I hop back into the main studies and I go back and forth. And this freedom allows me to stay motivated and enjoy what I'm doing. So now I'll probably do a thing on sketchbooks as well because I've had quite a few different ones now. This is my third one, and it's different, and there are some pros and cons to all of these. So maybe I'll do something like that. So one of the things I'm doing is that focusing a lot on basic shapes, focusing a lot on not getting caught up on accuracy too much, just trying to get the main understanding of what's going on, and then try to incorporate it into my own drawings. So this would actually be one here where I try to incorporate everything that I have been learning so far, and this also would be one. And one of the things you're going to learn is that things seem very simple when you are actually learning it and drawing it from the reference. And even with the reference in front of you, just simply trying it again yourself, things will start falling apart, okay? So and when I look back at it, I go, oh, this should have been different. The shoulder should actually be rotated slightly different. Some issues on this one, but it's only through actually practicing it on your own and trying to apply it that you're going to get better and better at what you're doing. Um, so these were pretty early on and pretty cool when I still doing a lot of pen. Here you'll see actually some of the images that you just saw from the book, and you'll see how I'm making sure I understand the connection. What are these different bony points that stick out at the elbow? Getting the drawing in, and then trying to apply them. So again, these are all some of my drawings from imagination, going through doing different tests, trying to put things together. So basically, basically these are some of the things I'm doing. I'm not going to be doing a sketchbook tour today, so, but just showing you the example of some of the things I'm doing, trying to figure out and understand how to simplify more and more um, the things that I'm learning. And one of the things that was pointed out in this book that was pretty important, I think it is somewhere around here. Yes. So basically, on this page, if you take time to read it, they basically explain that there are a lot of different ways to try to simplify the shapes that you're using. And I had um, one of you ask a question that was actually pretty good, asking about whether I'm still using boxes and mannequins and stuff like that. I use actually a hybrid of different things, and that's one of the things they pointed out on this page, that yes, they will give you some shapes, but you don't have to actually um, be kind of have it as a rule that you have to use these shapes in order to produce your figures. You use shapes that work for you. So for some people, the boxy shapes work very well. Brian Knox, I think it is, from one of the ateliers, he does an amazing job with these geometric shapes when constructing the image. When I try to specifically just totally use geometric shapes, my figures come out really stiff and boxy, and so I kind of use a hybrid from time to time of kind of more organic shapes and stuff like that. Uh, but basically, that's what they're saying here. You can use different strategies. It doesn't always have to look the same, but once it communicates the idea of what's happening with the arm, you are good to go. So it says you can try these, but you can try your own. And that's kind of the point of why I like this book as well. It helps you to, at least for me, again, it may not be the book for you, but it helps me to break out of that mold of, oh, I need to get this exactly right. And I think that's one of the main things that was holding me back. You may argue some people who are more into the more realistic drawings may prefer some of the earlier drawings from my learning experience, where I was hyper focused on getting everything super accurate. I know everybody has their own thing, but I like the freedom that is being injected into the ideas in this book and even in their style of drawing. So again, if you want to get the most out of an art book, out of an anatomy book, first of all, you need to figure out what your need actually is. And then, if your need is learning, like me, you want to make sure that you're understanding exactly what they are doing. Make sure that it explains it. Um, Make sure that it has enough examples, and make sure that it's putting those examples together and showing you how everything fits together to produce an image, a figure that's in some sort of pose that that will work in real life. I think this is really important, and most important, I'll leave you with this. The most important thing is to make sure that you have a tool or material that is fun for you. If you're not having fun, you're not going to use it. Don't burn yourself out not having fun. So I hope this answers your question. If you have additional follow-up questions, put them in the comment, whether they are along this video or just another question that you have that you want me to answer, and I will do my best to get those answered for you. So see you in the next video. Bye. Because as one commenter pointed out in the video where I talked about box rotations, the video from Modern Day James is pretty complex. Even some of his other discussions, it gets pretty technical. I think it's made for people who are intermediate and up to the advanced section. It gets pretty complicated, his video. So I found a way to simplify it, and I started working through the process. As you can see here, still getting a lot of unconfident lines around here. And then something started clicking here, and I said to myself, okay, let's try a few in pen, straight to pen, And we were able to do some of those. I was like, nice. Did some more here, and then by here, I think I finally had the understanding, and I was like, let's do our rotation again. And as you can see here, I was able to do my rotation, one line, staying confident, changed up into a different shape, started on that, and now it was time to take this knowledge and start progressing to other shapes. And again, as soon as you start doing that, something about your brain, it just goes a little bit wonky, and the practice ensues. You just don't give up, right? So I started with torso and pelvis, simple shapes, trying to figure out there are a lot of things going on here. Don't look too deeply at it, but got to the point where I was confident enough to go, okay, let's do torsos and pelvis in pen, right? Straight to ink. This is a missing link. Having that confidence to actually see where the objects go, how they fit together. Started adding on some cylinders for feet, all right, and how they interact. Through it in the torso again. Things always start falling apart a little bit as you add in new shapes. And then I started trying to figure out, okay, how do I represent these cylinders and boxes so they look more human-like? So you see quite a lot of work here, trying to do some rotation on the whole thing. I put yikes here, but actually this one actually isn't that bad when I came back and looked at it. Doing a lot of work here. I mean, it kind of gets crazy, but it pays off in the end. So putting in the mileage is another thing. So two things that have caused me to complete the sketchbook faster is when you are drawing straight, just using one line and just putting it down and leaving it, you draw a lot faster. And this is one reason why Kim Jung-gi could be so prolific as well, because even though he's drawing slowly, he is drawing it and leaving it alone, and you get to cover a lot of ground, which is important for troubleshooting, trying to figure out how things work, how things should look in different positions. You cover a lot more ground, you get a lot more learning out in a short amount of time, or in the same amount of time that you were using before. You were just able to cover so much more ground because you're not spending your time going, okay, should the pelvis be here or here? Okay, does that look right? And then after all of that, having to come over and draw solid lines so it actually looks structured. Here, you're able to draw it, make a mistake, correct the mistake, repeat. As you can see here, I constantly start adding in more and more things and trying to get characters interacting with each other, and continuing to work on how I want things to lay out. This is straight to ink, doing a bunch of different characters in different scenarios, then tackling the head, which is still a struggle for me, but getting some head shapes in, trying to see how they interact, trying to add it into the shapes they have, hands, throwing in some hands. But if you notice from here on out, everything, or I think most everything, there's probably times when I don't quite remember if I have some in here where I still do kind of searching lines, but I'm really trying to stop myself from doing that now. Really trying to get one line down, get it done. And so just drawing straight, trying to use as little erasing as possible. I do use erasing every once in a while, but for the most part, just putting it down and leaving it alone and seeing how it turns out. If there's a mistake, if there's something I see that I can do better, you just draw it again, right? But it gets you in the habit of correcting it by drawing it again and being able to see in your mind's eye where the different body parts should be, how they should be positioned. And this is one of the things that I've found really helpful about going through all of these boxes that just seems like, wow, a huge waste of time. But what happens is that you begin to actually visualize it in your head, the different planes, and that helps you when it comes on to actually drawing an actual person, you can see those boxes because the boxes have become so simple now, and you're basically attempting to put the clothing or position a more human-like looking body where you know the boxes show up. I don't know if I explained that well, but you'll see some of that coming on here. So some more practice. So these figures would be the first attempt. If you even see here, you can kind of see the box structure going on here. If you notice, these straps are drawn as if they're coming across the top of the box and then coming down the front plane of the box, and then kind of keeping in mind that this line is parallel, so these two should be parallel to this line if you drew a line across here. So these are some of the things you're basically thinking about it as if you're still, as if you have the box there in the position and you're kind of trying to put the clothing over the box. And it makes it better. It makes it better. So trying quite a few things here. I think this was just a reference up here, but putting it in the style that's simplified. And what I've also found is that it's easier to memorize things that are simplified. So if you're back in this section here, drawing more complicated things, it is very hard to memorize something like this and have it useful to draw from imagination because there's just too much going on here. Now, something like this is very easy to memorize. You have a box, you have the hip, one foot going forward, one foot going back. I mean, this is very easy to memorize and to even manipulate and do something different with. Not so with something more complicated like what you may have been practicing a lot in your drawings. And so I started jumping into kind of including more figures, trying to put them in a situation. You see some of my boxes going in there, a few persons. Again, looking at these, the clothing is very box-like, and yes, this does create some stiffness, but we will be able to work on that later on. The main part is to be able to position them in place. Even if you look at this guy, very boxy, but that's okay, knowing that I would have never been able to do something like this in the past, just drawing straight. Still some work on the horses and stuff like that. That back foot really, really needs some work. Um, but yeah, before there was also almost no way for me to think about getting to Kim's level. Um, but now I think I have a path. There's still a lot I need to do. The closer I get, the more I'm amazed at what he was actually able to do, the more I understand, but at least I can see some path forward now. So even when I do my references, yes, I am thinking about the structure underneath, but I am mostly practicing drawing direct. And yes, some of the things aren't perfect, but you're also learning to be more confident by doing this, learning that, hey, it may not be perfect, but it still works out. And if you look at Kim Jong Ji's works, some of it isn't perfect, but it still works. It still works. There's something about being able to put down confident lines that sells the drawing even more than having the perfect lines down. Now, this is another thing that's important that I'm doing down here. This was from imagination, but being able to do rotations really challenges, do you actually know what the thing looks like in space? Or it even challenges your imagination. Doing scenes. These are all very important. And here, rotated sideways, rotate up, rotate, rotating around, all very important things for you to try to do to push the limits of your creativity and also your imagination, your creativity. Here we have some reference. Here I actually did some construction underneath to see if I can really hone in how some of that clothes fit over, and that's really what I'll be using these constructive models for, to really determine how clothes should flow. And now once I can visualize it, I can incorporate it into other drawings as I do them. This one you may have seen from my previous video. So this was super cool, I enjoyed it. It was more direct pencils first with as little erasing as I could, and then I came over with the pen. You can watch that in the video right before this. That was very fun for me. So we have more construction, more rotation going on here. As you can see, I'm doing a lot of these rotations, trying to see what's going on, some direct draw, some lining up. There is some construction underneath, and trying to see how clothing fits on top of that. Some beanbag gestures, random work. But you get to cover so much more ground when you're doing this, and it's so much more effective. At least I think so. I think so. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with what I'm saying here. So doing some perspective work, we're trying to figure out exactly how persons should line up, if they're upside down, their hair falling out. Doing a lot of work on faces and some expressions, because again, I really need to beef up my face work. And also hats. Hats are kind of tricky. So coming back in here with some of my simple shapes, going, okay, can I make it slightly more complex and a little bit more realistic? Maybe. Then I jumped on to some work on drawing heads, trying to do a lot of work on that, constantly coming back to the direct draw of entire scenes, just kind of letting your mind run wild and go, okay, what next should I do? What next? What next? No Fear, I Want to Kiss, Me Too. One thing that I also need to keep in mind, this is something that Dr. Draw talks about. It comes with time because your mind can only handle so much stuff at once. And one of the things that I have a problem still keeping in mind is that objects toward the back need to be smaller. Sometimes my proportions get away in background characters where they probably a little bit larger than they should be, but you'll get there. It's just a lot of practice. Some more practice on direct draw, and again, being able to put down those lines directly and know that it's okay, just leave them alone. I really like the hatching patchwork that I did on that. More work on faces and trying to figure out, okay, this is a complex face, how do I simplify it into something that is actually drawable from imagination? Some hand work here from reference and some from imagination. I don't really remember. If it looks good, it's probably reference. Not so good, probably more from imagination. There you go. More work on scenes with direct draw, trying to figure out how things line up. Made some notes on what I need to work on still. Constantly more practice. And as you can see, the volume of work that I'm able to cover is just so much more with this direct draw process. Tried some different ink wash here. This one was with pen that you fill up with water, and didn't like really how those turned out. This was more using a brush, a traditional brush, and dipping in ink. I really like some of the textures, how it turns out kind of watercolory. Eh, neither here or there. I decided at the end of it, okay, it's probably still too much distraction for now. Head back to actually learning how to draw first, and then I'll come back to shadows again in the future. Kind of trying to keep that focus a little bit and not get strayed. This was some work on folds from Modern Day James. One of the things that I did find interesting is going through it, like it makes a lot of sense, but as it starts coming to applying the knowledge of folds, it really devolves into something much simpler than the examples that are shown. So yeah, at some point I'll figure that out because it seems like in the actual application of these folds, it's a lot simpler than. I mean, these examples are really cool, and I had lots of fun drawing them. Again, drawing direct, but the application of it is much more simplified. So that's something I'll continue to work on. As you can see here, trying to work through a lot of folds myself, some from imagination, some from reference. So trying to see how those work out. Some more reference work and some imaginative work mixed in. But again, all direct draw, which makes things go pretty quickly. Doing a lot more work here. Doing some rotations. I think I was actually at a tire store waiting to get my snow tires put on, and I did some drawing there. This one was from an image from one of Kim Jung-ji's drawings, and I did a direct draw on it as well. And again, as you can see, the folds that he is using in his work, it's a lot more simplified than the examples of how folds should look. So a part of the process is learning what reality is and then simplifying it down to what actually works in a drawing. I guess it's similar to photography, where there are some things that work in photograph, but if you're actually looking at the person who's being photographed, like it looks really weird what they're doing, but it comes out amazing in photographs. And I think a similar thing is going on with drawing, where there are some things that look a certain way in real life, but to do this type of drawing that Kim Jung-ji does, it's a much more simplified process that works for the drawing that isn't really real life. So you're simplifying it down, and the simplified things look much better in drawings. This was a really cool page spread, and yeah, a lot of exploration being covered in a short time. So again, it's just so important because this is how you can get your mileage in. These two spreads were done the same day. Again, oh, well, actually, to here, and then this one was the last page. But again, exploring, just drawing things. You're going to be making mistakes, but you're going to be making mistakes faster, learning faster, and even though there are a ton of mistakes in this section, it's actually still pretty cool. And that's one of the things you learn, which allows you to increase your confidence that it's going to be okay. I guess similar to drawing in ink in the Drawbox course, you slowly begin to build confidence and know that it's going to be okay. I started, after doing this, going back into some anatomy, because as you want to build up your drawings a little bit more, while you won't be drawing all of this complexity, what I have learned is that you actually need to know the complexity in order to simplify it. And so that's why sometimes I'm still doing reference work. Well, this one's from Imagination. This one's from Kim Jong-ji, but this one is a reference. So still doing reference work to see how things actually look, because then this informs how you are able to then go ahead and do your more simplified work. And so doing both go together, and especially in this, trying to figure out how the muscles overlap, because it really affects how, if a hand's coming backwards or you're looking at it from the top or from the bottom, should the line cross on the top or the bottom. But anyway, so yeah, this is the last page here. I normally don't do these last, like if you notice this opens flat, the first and last pages of these books are kind of weird, where they can't really open flat unless you crease the page somewhere in here. So I normally leave those, but I've already started a new sketchbook like this. But I am excited about what this new sketchbook is going to turn out to be, what breakthroughs are going to come from this, and just looking forward to the progress I am about to make. All right, so if you've liked the sketchbook tour, if you've liked what I've shared here, follow me on my journey as I continually take just one little baby step toward in the direction of drawing like Kim Jong-ji / Peter Draws / Tom Fox Draws / other artists that I've come across that I don't know their name right now, who's able to do this style of drawing. So this is going to be my goal, the journey that I'm on. If you want to see how it turns out, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Have you ever wondered why some artists seem to improve at new concepts so quickly? Or maybe you're feeling stuck trying to learn art yourself. You may even be currently enrolled in a course or going through an art book or a tutorial and just feel like you're not getting much for your efforts or your money. Well, in this video, we're going to discuss 7 practical ways to succeed in your art learning so you can fully embrace your artistic journey. And in good YouTuber fashion, the first and the 7th are probably the most important, but the others in between are really important as well, and I'm going to be pointing out different things I did going through the course that I am currently going through as well. So these things may be very helpful for you as well, so don't miss them. Hi everyone, I'm Vincent, and on this channel I have been chronicling and sharing my art journey as I learn to draw. And recently I started another course. Yes, I'm back at the grind. So I started the Basic Principles of Drawing People from Imagination. It is a Tom Fox Draws course that is on Domestika. And once I am done with the entire course, I will share a full recap and review on the course and what I thought of it compared to the other courses that I have done so far. So I will take you through the whole thing. But yes, I am back on the grind. I'm feeling inspired once again to be diving into art courses. And while I'm back on the grind, I am back with a new goal. So when I first started out, I did quite a few courses, and I think I almost burnt out quite a bit because I think I had the wrong goal in mind, which was just to get better, to be really good at art. That was kind of the goal, and things kind of fell apart, especially when I bought Kim Jong-ji's sketchbook and it arrived, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I don't think that I can achieve this goal that I have set out for myself. And I even posted a video about it on my channel here. But I'm back with a new goal. And what is this new goal? Well, the new goal is to really just enjoy drawing. Just to have fun, to draw fun things, to play, still to progress, but not to worry about mistakes as in letting them become a source of frustration for me. So, yeah, joy is the new goal, and progress is still involved in this. So, this actually leads us into the tip number one, the thing number one that you need to be looking for, and that is the first thing you should be doing to get the most out of any course, any learning, any book that you're trying to do is to first of all develop a love for drawing. I talked about this in the previous video in terms of just draw and how this is really the basic fundamental. It allows you to do several things to stop comparing yourselves to others. So don't compare yourself to me, to your teacher, to others around you, because really you don't know what it took to get them to the point that they are at, to the point where they now make things look simple, to the point where they're able to catch on to things more easily than you. Like, just stop comparing yourself to other people. Have fun. Try to have fun, draw things, play, do all those things. And as I pointed out, I am not anti art progress, okay? So I'm not saying have fun at the expense of everything else, at the expense of progress. But because I think progress is good, right? So art progress allows you to better represent the things you have in your head that you want to put on paper. But the aspect that having fun brings in is that it allows you to go the distance in order to do all the drawing you will need to do to see progress. A lot of people like to think there are shortcuts, but there aren't really a lot of shortcuts. There are good ways to do things, but those good ways and the quote unquote fastest ways still involve a lot of drawing. And yeah, it's not just all about drawing boxes, but boxes matter as well. But as you can see, even from this first page, whatever you're doing involves a lot of drawing. So you need to make sure that you are having fun.